right, everyone. Welcome to another awesome day of FileMaker Training. I'm Richard Carlton here with Bongo Cat. Can you hear that, Christian? You hear that?
Yes.
Yes, very good.
Yeah.
So we have the hot cat on standby. I want to welcome, well, Bretterman, the cat's not here, but David Angel, Foxy Jack Ken is there. Hot air balloon Ken. I was watching some of the best clips of the hot air balloon. There's Stu from MarshSock. It's awesome. So I am here running this show today because Margaret is doing emergency cat support. So that is what's going on that end of stuff. Christian Olson, you want to share your screen real quick? Can we do that real quick before we go to Schmidt? Christian Schmidt standing by, the real talent of the operation, but we want to Christian Schmidt wanted to Christian Olson wanted to dive in real quick. So this is the Wolfpack. Christian Olson, one of our senior engineers who helped create the Wolfpack, maintains this, keeps it going. Christian, do you have any updates for us on the Wolfpack?
Yeah, Margaret is waiting on me to approve a date. We're going to come actually in April and do another release. And there's going to be 2 or 3 things mentioned in that release. So the first one that I think is going to be really popular with most people, I know that I use this a lot, is the left-hand navigation card that Calvin made at RCC. Has a new version out, and it's a really nice improvement. Specifically the management screen, he took in a lot of feedback from myself and others and made this easier for people to use, but there's some other nice improvements that go along with that. So I've already used the new version. I'm liking it. I think people will be pretty excited about that. Stu, I don't know if he's here. I don't know if he hasn't replied to me yet, but Stu is here. So I don't know for sure because I haven't heard back from him, but whether he comes and presents or not, we do have an add-on that was submitted by him that's really cool. So this was something that Nick had made for basically relating records to other records. If you use starting point, it's a little magnifying glass, but he's actually got one that's a drop down and one that's the pop-up window that comes up. And then Calvin took what Nick had, made it more modular. So we've got Nick and then Calvin, and then Stu took Calvin's modular version and made it an add-on. I'm using this in one of my own customer files, and I'm really liking it. So this, I think, is going to be a huge win. We don't have anything like this in Wolfpack. And then slide tabs, which is probably one of the ones that I use the most that Calvin came in and made beautiful. It's not totally done yet, but I have a new version of that. For those of you who've used this, you might remember that every time you open a new window in a new module, it makes a new variable name. Now what we're doing is putting it into a single variable, and the array is just index based on the window and window name and number. So that's pretty cool. There's a couple other improvements I'd like to try to get out before we release that, but we're gonna have a live stream on that later in April once I confirm a date with Margaret, who's been waiting patiently on me.
So Christian Schmidt's one of our senior engineers, very talented, kind of like Nick. They are not cheap, they're not free, but if you want a little bit of work done by someone who's a real bad, then you should reach out to send an email to support RC Consulting, because Christian actually has a break in some of his big projects and he's looking to pick up some additional work if you're looking for someone to help you with stuff, right, Sue?
Yes, let me just amend that slightly. You said Christian Schmitz, and as much as I wish Christian
so sorry. I almost like
was one of our senior engineers.
Yeah, he's not. Tell me what you're doing. So you're available at the moment. So if you need help, we can do that. Yes. If someone wants to email you.
Yeah, I've got a little bit of slowness. A lot of my clients are on pause right now, so I'm not necessarily looking for somebody who wants, full time out of me. But if there's anybody out there needs a little help on some projects or has got something they want to get going, I do surprisingly have an opening in my schedule, which is unusual. So by all means, reach out if anyone feels like they would like a little extra help.
I am going to pivot now to Christian Schmidt. Christian Schmidt, we're going to pick up the conversation today on the Monkeybread plugin. It was so funny. So those of you who don't understand what happened, so we were on a thread today, and Christian Olson, you can kind of leave or hang out or whatever you want to do. So we were on a thread, on an internal Claris communication thread, and it was so funny because what happens is someone goes, "Hey, blah, 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 the Webviewer, blah, 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 doesn't blah, 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 because I can't blah, blah, blah." And Christian Schmidt goes on there and goes, if you use the Monkeybread plugin, you can override the problem and get the Webviewer to, and before long, people who are very senior in the FileMaker community were using Monkeybread to solve their problems that they couldn't solve any other way. And then I went in and said, yes, it's an essential plugin. So it's not like I'm getting money from Christian to show up here. Actually, he shows up here on his own volition and we make it free to him. But I only promote products that kick ass, right? Christian Schmitz makes great products. You should use and have his products. And today we're going to talk about more amazing things that you can do solving this problem. So Christian, do you want to show your screen and talk about your stuff?
Yeah, today we want to take a look on the Webviewer things. And
okay,
so I share the screen.
There we go. There's your screen. Oh, we see your screen. Awesome.
Yeah. So let's see. The MBS plugin comes with examples, as you may know, about 600 examples. So
yeah, okay, let me restate that. You said that slowly. So when you get the Monkeybread plugin, even before you buy it, you get all these examples, 600 FileMaker example files on how to solve specific problems like OCR and this and that and the other thing, right? So it's not just like, here's this manual, here are actual samples that all this stuff happens. It's amazing, right? Okay, keep going.
Yes. So let's see, what could we do? We could maybe have a copy text example. So a lot of people nowadays ask about some kind of web access. So they have maybe a website where they like to get some data. And the difficulty is usually that they could use a web API if there is an API. But I have a lot of customers that need data from a website where there is no web API. So they need to get it from the website. Usually you can do a lot of with the curl functions. You can just download the HTML of the website and maybe you find the data there. But in a lot of cases, you want to just load it in a Webviewer and get back the text, which is often assembled with JavaScript. So you have to actually load the page, wait until it is loaded, and then you can grab the text and do something useful. So, and this is a very basic interaction with the Webviewer. So let's take a look. So the first thing is your Webviewer needs to be named. So you can tell the plugin which Webviewer you have, because you can have several Webviewers. The next thing usually is we go here and put in an address here about blank. The reason is until you load a website into the Webviewer, there is no Webviewer. When the plugin asks the operation system for the Webviewer on the window, there is no Webviewer until FileMaker needs one. So even as you placed it there on the layout, it doesn't exist until you use it. So we put this about blank URL here. So we get a Webviewer.
Okay, can you say that again? That the Webviewer is on the layout, but it doesn't activate or do anything until you put a URL in it?
Until we so I haven't done anything, and let me just ask the plugin for a function. MBS Webview is loaded, maybe web. There is no web. There is no Webviewer because there is nothing loaded here.
Okay.
And as soon as I go, and in a lot of examples we have that included. So about blank, we click it. Now it looks the same. You don't see the difference, but now there is technically a Webviewer, and I see I got a.
And you got a 0. So let me help out real quick here on something that's pretty minor. So for those of you wondering about this, if you can go back to the layout, just close that data viewer for me real quick. So this box on the right, and this is kind of more basic. So Stu and some of you who already know all this, just bear with me briefly. A Webviewer is a web browser. Generally, it's a kind of a, whoop, there it went, it's gone. It's a web browser that is driven by the operating system. And so if we were on that window, that box right there, the big tall rectangular box on the right, It's execution, it's drawing, and everything is basically being handled by the operating system. So it's very, very important to understand that web viewers can be, this area in here is basically the responsibility of the Mac or Windows or whatever the hell it is operating system. FileMaker doesn't really, for the most part, know what's in there. Okay, it sends the URL, some sort of URL is sent out. The operating system draws this. Now, there are things that we can do to go back and forth, the libraries back and forth to call scripts and things like that. We covered that in our JavaScript class a couple weeks ago. That being said, Christian Schmitz is showing us, in my thinking, kind of if I'm not a JavaScript fundamentally a programmer. If I was, maybe I might lean that way more. But since I'm not, my inclination is to open up the Monkeybread plugin, buy it. I already own it. Open it up, find an example, and then use that to get what I need done. And that is communicate or somehow extract the data out of the web viewer. So once again, that's not really a FileMaker powered box. It's not a FileMaker powered box. It's powered by the operating system. It's super important. It's like different programmers. It's like, yeah, it's like completely separate area in there, right? Has really very little to do with FileMaker. All right, so go ahead, Christian.
So let's take a look how the script works. Got a nice script here. So the first thing is we tell the web viewer to load the website. Then we have a common problem, and that's we don't know how long it takes to load the website. So I usually do a script pause, and you could just do a script pause of maybe 5 seconds and say that's enough. But for most projects, we go here and use a isLoading function to know whether the web viewer is finished yet. So we wait until it's finished, and then we use a plugin function called getPlainText to get the text. We could also ask for the HTML text. So we just change the text. HTML text. And then we would get the HTML text. Here it is. So once you have the text, you can, of course, do all kinds of things. And let's say we have another job we need to get here. What's new on FileMaker Trainings live stream? So let's say we get the text from that website. And let me change it back to the plain text. Yep. So, and we have the live podcasting schedule, and we see the topics here.
Okay. Wow.
Now you can, of course, just pass the text here. But if you like to get a topic text like this, wouldn't it be easier to just grab just this piece of text?
Okay.
That's something people ask from time to time.
Yeah. How do we do that?
So the first thing is we would like to have the inspector for the website. So we can inspect the live website. And we have something for that. So we could make a little script to enable the inspector or to show it. So let's see, for Mac, it's preferences. I have to find the function in my list here. So, and it's one of the, here, this line. So we can tell the web viewer to enable the developer extras. And let me just make a new script for that. Yeah. Enable inspector, and we say variable set, and we put in this call for set preferences, and that's for macOS. But you may also have someone using Windows, so different code for Windows. So on Mac, we can just turn it on, so you can enable it with the context menu, like this here, inspect element. For Windows, we have a show dev tool function, which simply shows the inspector as you call the script. So all the Windows people may run this, and it will open a new window, which looks basically very similar to this one.
Yep.
So this is the inspector. we want to see this piece of text here. We want to see what's today here live in the first entry. So there is, what do we call that? Cross aim. Oh, there's something where you can target what you want.
Oh, do a
Yeah, like on a rifle.
a search, or what do we,
Yeah. So I can go and click
or
somewhere
a
here.
substitute, or okay. Wow. Okay. Wow.
Okay, I can pick an element here.
Yeah.
So I can click here, this button, element selection, and can click on something, and then it is highlighted here in the HTML tree.
Nice.
That's the text we want. Now the question is, how do we get to the text? How do we find it? The thing is, we have to identify the text based on the HTML nodes here.
Yep.
With as little nodes as possible, so we can have a way to find it which doesn't break for small changes on the website and can live as long as possible. There will be still time when your customer is calling you again to let you redo it because the website got a new design and everything looks different.
Yeah. So what he's saying is that we want to code it so we can get this out, but as people tweak their HTML, their website, etc., you don't want it to break the file. This is what we call screen scraping, right? I guess that's a term we still use. Some of you, Stu, Mark Johnson, some of you have been around a long time doing programming. Screen. So we have a screen here, and we're like scraping with like a putty knife or a knife, scraping off the text, right? Screen scraping. And so you want to make sure the screen scraping is as reliable as possible. So yeah, David's typing there. Cool.
So if you have an API to get your data, use the API. If you can export a CSV once a month, that's also fine. But we have a ton of websites which simply don't have any API. And for that, we go with screen scraping and hope that they don't have the budget to change the website every week.
Yep.
So let's say on this website, there is an ID live here to find the element. Why not use that? So let's see. And here is a command prompt where we can enter commands in JavaScript. So we can just try and play with it until.
Yep, I feel JavaScript coming on. Here we go.
So I can do the search. It finds the element. So it finds a list of elements. So of course I have to pick the first one, which is dot 0. Or do we have we have a first child also. First element child there.
Okay.
So we can go from the ID. We can pick the element 0, the first element child, which is the next thing below it. But otherwise, we would look.
So we got to go way down there. How do we get way down there?
Yeah, we have a live thing, and inside the live thing, we have a table. And we could look for the table, but we could also just jump to the next table row, and then maybe to the next TD. And let's say we have an element. This gives. Why do I get undefined? Oh, this gives one element, so there is no array. So get element.
Yeah.
The next thing would be by take name. Let's see, we get straight to the TD. And this gives us here.
Okay.
The whole Monday box here. And so I can go here and move over the elements and see which one it is. So this is a top, this is a second, third. So let's say we pick the first one here, which gives us a Monday.
There we go.
And from that, we could, of course, just ask here for get inner text. And this is the text of the Monday box. Or to be more specific, again, we can say something like get element by tag name, P. That's paragraph. And the first one is the one we want. And so inner text as the text you may want.
Let me just drive briefly here for a second. So what I want to let everyone know about is that this is based upon a couple things that we covered in the first couple of days of our JavaScript class. So Christian Schmidt here. Christian, if you want to take a quick drink and take a breath, I'm going to share my screen real quick. I'm going to take over. And so if I go to fmtraining.tv, so we did this JavaScript training the other day. And what you can do, you click here, you can get access to the free videos, right? So there's 2 weeks of free videos. The first 3 days of what we covered are really helpful in understanding what Christian just did, right? So it's really fortuitous, lucky per se, that we covered that. Now I can go back and reference it. But you can click this right here. You'll get a link to visit that. Most all of you get our newsletter. I think we sent this out to everyone the other day. If I just go, the link is right here. Once again, this doesn't get you access to the paid training, but for what we're doing here, all you need is these first 3 days where we step through very basically, very slowly, the idea of accessing the developer console for the Webviewer, how to do that, how to step through some of these items very lightly. And so if you had that knowledge and then you watch what Christian's doing here, he's going about 900 miles an hour for a non-JavaScript person. If you're like Mark Johnson, some of you who do JavaScript, and this is like, yeah, I got this. But some of us, I'm not fundamentally super comfortable at JavaScript at night. At night, I don't dream about JavaScript, okay? I dream about helicopters. I dream about FileMaker scripts. I dream about Claris marketing going bonkers and doing stuff. And so that's what I dream about at night, literally. That being said, if you're a person that dreams in JavaScript, this is easy. If you're not, then watch these first couple of videos here. Each one's about an hour or so, maybe a little bit more than an hour. Okay. Mark Johnson, I was just playing with the JavaScript and FileMaker today. Yep, absolutely. Cool. All right. So I'm going to pivot back. I'm going to stop sharing, Christian, if you want to reshare your screen again. I gave them a little bit of homework so you could understand what they're doing. Cool.
For this kind of screen scraping, you only need a few commands. Mostly this get element by ID, by tag name, by class name. And you need to know how to get an element of an array, of course. And then maybe inner text. And once you have a command like this, so this is a command you and maybe even your customer, someone could just type in and say, I need this information, and here are the 5 queries we need after loading the website, and then we can write it in record and continue. And now you may ask you what to do with this. Let's go back to FileMaker here, and we can use the data viewer, my little command prompt here, webview dot, what was it, evaluate. So we can use the evaluate function to run any JavaScript in the web viewer and get back the result right away. That is. So evaluate will run this code in the web viewer in FileMaker right away. You don't have to call a JavaScript function for that, like the built-in thing with FileMaker, but you can just run anything, any expression. And you don't need to wait for script callback. You get the result directly.
I have something you might want to just take a little deviation on real quick if you want to do this. It's a common question. I'm going to repeat the question. It's such a great question that other people on Discord were answering it for you. So David Angel says, is it possible to save, like Word files and interact with Microsoft Word files in a web viewer or container or something? And I guess that would go for Word files and Excel files. And I'm pretty sure there are sample files you have about Microsoft Word, I'm sure, right? Because Labo 404 found a component _Word file. If you want, I could do that.
Yeah. If you search in our documentation for something like Word, you find 2 things. The first is rich text. That's functions on macOS using the engine behind TextEdit. So you can load and save and process some RTF, some style text here, And this includes reading files from disk and writing files to disk. And that can include doc files. So this can be handy, but it doesn't do everything. Most people will use the other way, which is here the Word file component, where you can just load a template file, and then you can do a few things like some replace text. Where's it? Substitute here. So you can load a file from a container, you can substitute a few placeholders with whatever text you need, and then you can write it back to the container and clean up. So if you have the need to make Word documents,
that's pretty awesome.
Usually I would recommend to store the data in FileMaker records and then output a PDF, and this way you have the data in the database and not outside. Like I've seen the problem when people output a Word file, the Word file gets changed and then sent to the client as an offer. And when the client accepts the offer, nobody has the original Word file anymore and doesn't know what exactly was offered.
He is here to help you be successful in FileMaker. Peripherally, he's here that you give him a little money and you buy the product. But if he keeps answering all your problems, right? I mean, this is one of these products you've got to have. I thought about Claris. You know, I was thinking about it in the shower this morning. It's like, man, you know, we used to think that Claris buying this is a good idea. What Claris should do is write a check to Christian every year for about 500,000 or 600,000 US, maybe more. It depends how much he wants. And then what they do is they just bundle his plugin with the product, but Christian doesn't work for Claris. Then what we do is we make sure that Christian is an outside independent company. But he does a great, I mean, I think that would be the way to do it. But yeah, that would be really nice. Really great. Have this built in everywhere.
Yeah, well, but something like this is happening because the community, as long as the community feeds us, we can make a living and just do this.
No, I understand. That's the whole point, right? So that's why I'm telling everyone to buy your stuff. Yep. So we got to keep Christian being fed. Oh, all right, cool. Other questions from the
let me
U.S.
show maybe
Marines have asking me questions on Discord. So yeah.
Let me show you a few of the examples, like let's say TinyMCE.
Oh yeah.
So you may have seen this a couple of times with different things like add-ons or examples, that running a Webviewer in FileMaker with a text editor is a common problem. A lot of people have done it. And so I want to quickly show you how the plugin way is of doing that. And in this case, we can load the HTML editor, here the TinyMCE, either locally, so we have a folder of with files here to load, or we load it from an address, so you can just put it on your website and load it from there with an URL like we do here. So we just load it from the website. Once you have loaded it, you can do other things, like you can load a text into it. So let's just here, this is a set button here, which moves the text from top into the text field. And the way we do here is we use a form control. So we have a hidden field, a form field on this Webviewer, which you don't see, but we use it to move the data. So we move all our text into the form field. And then we call run JavaScript, which is the older way, evaluate is the newer one. And we tell the TinyMCE to load its content from the form field. This way, we don't need to put all your text here into the JavaScript. If you have seen solutions where they put the text into the JavaScript, there's a little risk that they don't escape all the special characters, and this allow the user to put any JavaScript in there, and that would run in your Webviewer, and you don't want that. So putting it in the form field allows us to move a lot of text quickly, and we don't need to put it in the JavaScript. And to have the form field, we modified the HTML file and just added here a little hidden form field. with an invisible field. So there goes the text. And to, again, save it, we do the same in reverse. We run a little JavaScript here to tell TinyMCE to get us the content and put it in the form field again. And once it's in the form field, we can use our form field functions to ask the web viewer for the contents of this form name and this field name, and then we get the text. We do a little bit cleanup, like here line endings, like JavaScript likes to use Unix line endings, and FileMaker uses Mac line endings. So we switch them, and we may remove any control characters which we may not like to have. And then we store it in the field. And there's a little trick here. So the TinyMCE uses some JavaScript to show a dialog before you close the web viewer if you want to save. If you do that, it crashes FileMaker. At least it used to. I haven't tried it for a long time. But well, we just remove this question mark, and then it doesn't crash. So it doesn't ask on the unload. So
yeah,
no dialogue is popping
there
up.
was a conversation over the last couple, 2-3 days about, and I don't know if you were part of this or not. They were talking about hidden characters in FileMaker. I don't know if that was the ETS thread. It didn't have anything to do with ETS, but it was either a developer thread or something in the FileMaker community. Christian, you probably saw it. And they were talking about like hidden spaces or something like that. And someone was complaining. It wasn't a hidden space. It was a hidden invisible character, right? So
well, we remove here control characters because if you have something like SHA-0, so something like SHA-1 or so you have a byte with the value 1 in your text, you don't see it.
Yes. Right. You don't see it.
It may cause trouble later.
So back up. So when I say remove control characters, is that like a universal cleanup for everything? For that
No, not
string?
for everything.
Well,
so we have a couple of text functions here which can be useful. So remove, where's it? Control characters. This one removes all the character with code point smaller than 32, except here return and a tab. So this would remove
an invisible space or a hidden space. Is that a low number like that? I don't remember the ASCII number. I just remember.
No, there are a couple of Unicode characters. Let me see. We have.
Hey, any of you smart people, Mark Johnson, Stu, I don't know if Atomic Gift Shop.
We got filter functions here. So we got something like filter UTF-16, which removes UTF-32 characters. So characters which are needing 2 characters in UTF-16. And we have a filter ASCII function, which removes anything which is not 7-bit. We also have a function to remove accents, which we sometimes use for comparing text. So you can here take a word like this, and you get an ASCII version of it. And what else do we have?
Labo, you too. I think you're one of the sharp people, the sharp sticks. If you have a hidden character comment or something, let us know. There's a bug with an invisible space which prevents printing correctly in FileMaker 16, I think. Yeah, invisible spaces have been a problem since I was doing lasso coding 25 years ago. So you'd get an invisible space in there, and bad things would happen. You couldn't figure out why. You can only see it in a real basic text editor, because other places would hide. Like if you're in FileMaker, if the value was in a field in FileMaker, it would be invisible. So that's why when he said this, I was thinking about, some sort of kind of cleanup thing.
Could certainly do another function. Or you just use a substitute call in FileMaker.
Yeah, the problem is you have to know what you're looking for. When we were hunting for this problem, we just knew we were looking for something that generally wasn't visible, but we didn't really know what the character was. Used to be these invisible spaces. FM diff, FM text cleanup. Yeah, so there's another. That's a free. Well, that's Manfred.
Oh yeah, here's a list. There's a website for that, invisible
Oh,
characters.
there we go. Visible characters. Here we go.
So you can look for all of them and see the numbers, and then you could make a long substitute line to remove them or replace them with.
Or you have a function that just
space.
gets rid of all of them for us, I'm sure. No?
I don't think we have that.
Well, then I expect that done by tomorrow because we need this. Not messing with you,
Okay.
Christian, but I mean, you get the idea, right? I mean,
Yeah, it's a nice idea. Yeah.
it's not a bad
We
idea.
put
You
a,
don't, okay, you don't
link
have to
on the
do
website.
it, but Brederman says he'll buy 50 copies of your plugin if you fix this for him. I'm messing with you.
Yeah, then he
Brederman's
can
one of our
email
other
me.
cats. Yeah.
Just email me, and then I have a volunteer to test it tomorrow.
Yeah, we need someone to, if you have a problem with invisible characters causing problems and you want a plugin to go and kill and trim them out of the contents of a field, let us know. Okay.
So
Support at monkeybreadsoftware.com. Monkeybread.
So do we have some other questions?
Other question? Yeah, Labo.
Otherwise we
Labo just buzzed in. He liked that. Well, that's problem is we need someone to test it. So we have to have someone who has a problem, and then he has to build it. Then you have to test it so he knows it's good. That's how that works, right? So
Let me show you another use of JavaScript. This is all in the button. This is an old example for an old problem. You may have a website which has links that open in a new browser window. And you may want the user to stay in the web viewer and be able to click the link, because otherwise nothing would happen. FileMaker would ignore the request, so I can go on this website here, my test page, and click the link, and it opens. Oh, it opens in Safari. Okay. So instead of opening in Safari, you may want this link to open within the web viewer. So this is a problem some people have, and so we got this little example JavaScript code here, which just loops over all the links to change the target of them to an empty value if it's blank. So if the link requests to be open in a new tab or new window in the browser, we just change that to be the current website.
So you load the page first in the web viewer. So then after it's loaded, then you run this to do the substitution, is what you're saying.
Yeah. And if you do that, you can then fix the link and then click it.
Oh, I see. Yeah, you do it after the fact. Okay.
Yeah.
I like that.
So this is a problem some customers have. So I think it's a good trick you should know. What else?
Questions, folks?
Maybe another use of JavaScript is a drawing area. So you may need something to draw, and you can save it to a container and get a picture of it.
If that only worked in original, I have sites that. Okay, so Ken says if that would only work on the original HTML, I have sites that open everything in a new window. Okay, so what, Ken, I just want to make sure you're following what he said. So we're talking about the previous demo, Christian, is that you load the original site in the web viewer, then you press the button, which runs the command that cleans it up, and then it behaves better in the web viewer, right, Ken?
Yeah. So you may,
okay.
For example, load a certain web page, like a help page or whatever, into a web viewer, and then you do the loop for the is loading to check whether the website is loaded. Then you can automatically do it. And then the user can just click the links and don't open a new browser. So
Yep. All right. So
yeah, we had a couple of requests for people wanting to use touch. So they wanted to draw on the screen, and then I asked them, where would you want to draw on the screen? And they said, I have a Windows laptop or Windows tablet, which has a touch screen. And it
Mm.
runs FileMaker Pro, and because it runs Windows. So you may need something to draw.
So it works on
Uh,
mouse and it also works on touch, both? Does both?
Yeah,
Okay.
you can draw here with a touch screen.
Mm.
Okay, so we run a little JavaScript here again to ask. So we ask the canvas for drawing to provide its data of the picture as a PNG picture and put it in a container, in a form field again, because the form field is a great way to move gigabytes of text if needed, no, megabytes. So we can then query the form field for the text, then take out the start and decode the rest with base 64, and so we get our PNG.
Yep. Yeah, another feature that should be in Pro, but all you need is your Monkeybread software.
And if you ask where the code is, well, it's right here. So we define the field here, and the HTML is coming from another global field in the solution. So you can just pick the HTML from that. And the HTML is not here. Okay, I just drop it on the layout. And then I can take a look, and that's nothing special. It's just a standard example for
What's the name
canvas,
of this?
and there's our
I'm missing the name. What's the name up here?
the name of the file here, signature.
Signature field. Yeah. So it's another one of
Yeah.
the 600 sample files that he has here. So, I mean, you folks who watch the live streams and you've been watching Christian Schmidt, do you realize how many more times you can have a customer project and say yes to them because of this plugin? You don't have to say no. No, FileMaker doesn't do that. No, it can't do signatures. You can say yes. Yes, it does screenshots. Yes, it does image manipulation. Yes, it works with Word. Yes, it takes signatures. Yes, 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 7,000 and some odd times, right? It's like,
Okay. No questions?
Right.
Okay, then let's take another example. What does
They're
this
pretty
one do?
quiet. I don't know. I mean, this is pretty good stuff. They should be more engaged. Maybe it's Monday and they're kind of sleepy. I can't tell.
Okay, so we have here an example to put text, plain text, like from an email, into a web viewer, and you see this is just plain text. Okay. We have also a better version, which finds the HTML links and replaces them with clickable links.
You said rich
So
text.
if you have a need
replace
to,
it with rich text links. Is that what you said? Or
yeah, this adds text links. So if you have some text in FileMaker and you just put in an HTTP link, from training.tv.
Yep.
And you click the button and it makes it a clickable link. So this is what a lot of email applications do. If you have a plain text email and you want to show it in a web viewer and have it clickable. So let's show you how this is
a web
made.
view over here on the, this is a web view over here on there. Okay.
Yeah, web viewer. So text in a web
Unhinged
view
says
better,
that they are blown away by what we're doing. This is, yeah, I mean, this is good stuff, but it's all the questions that I get asked. I mean, I had someone ask me about this kind of stuff over the weekend. I get all sorts of text emails support asking if FileMaker does stuff. I could tell you that if it wasn't for Christian Schmidt, I would have to say no to a lot of people. So.
Okay. So we have a function encode to HTML.
Okay.
This one is really useful because it takes all the umlauts here in Germany, the emojis you may have, any other special characters, and just turns them into HTML code. So
you take the emoji, it turns into code, then the emoji pops back out in the browser is what we're saying, right? So,
yeah. So you need to encode them to make sure they are showing. The next thing is here our little replace all call to find links and make them clickable. This is something you can copy and paste later, put it on your knowledge base. So this is the definition of how our HTTP address would look like. And you can, of course, extend it. You can just add here FMP if you like.
Okay.
Make also all the Claris links clickable. And then the replacement is a new HTML link with the URL as target as well as text. And we use here a caseless greedy search so we can match with independent of case and we get the whole URL. So once we did that, we go to the replace new line function. And this function originally was made to change the line endings. So FileMaker, even on Windows and Linux, wants to have carriage return factor. Unix and Linux prefer the line feed, and Windows wants both. And that's a useful function we need all the time because, well, we always have the text in the wrong line endings. But we also got here mode.
I'm being stupid. Where would we use this at? Just never mind the technical parts. What is the use case for this? Right? Pretend I don't know anything about ASCII and Unicode and stuff like that.
Well, let's say if text goes into a field in FileMaker, it needs to be with carriage return. So mode 1.
Okay.
You may get the text from, let's say, you run a little shell tool, command line tool.
You're saying so if I get the source text from another source, the line feeds won't be correct. Yeah. Okay.
So if you get text via SQL, via a curl command, via the shell, reading a file, whatever, the line endings may be this, or this. You don't know it in advance. So if you download the HTML from a website, it may be in either of the three modes. So you have to convert it. Otherwise, FileMaker may run into trouble. Whether it's some functions not working correctly, like something like get value, not picking up the right line, or you are printing it and all the text is on one line. So, but a later addition here was mode 4 to turn it into breaks for HTML, or mode 5 for XML. So in this case, we need 4 to get the new lines turned into BRs for HTML. Then we put in a header and a footer and show it in a field and also load it on the website. And here we use a data URL with base 64 encoded HTML text.
Wow. Yeah, now I'm in shock and awe. Someone said we're in shock and awe, but for me, it's I haven't run into this problem lately, so for me it was like, oh yeah, you could have encoding that would be screwed up from other sources. So yeah.
And if you have something like here, let's say you have someone putting HTML here, what do you think happens?
Yeah, it's going to be a mess normally. Looks ugly. Yeah.
Well, we just pass through it. So you see it. So this gets coded, so it shows up as normal text here. So people can't just put any HTML, JavaScript here, and it would run in the Webviewer. So we just want to show it as text.
Huh. All right. Other questions from folks. This is so today was all about web viewers. I guess it's been pretty obvious that that's what it is, but there's a lot of great things you do with web viewers. Anything other good demos you have? Because everyone else has kind of lost their minds, I think, at the moment. What else we have for web viewers?
So let's go and have a quick list through the function list. Oh, there's something. I told you about running a script for the changing the links. You can actually, on macOS, have a script run every time a website loads. So if the user is clicking on loading a website and then clicks to move to the next website, you can have JavaScript to run on every time a page is loading.
It doesn't work on Windows. That's too bad.
This is only for Mac currently. I don't know if the Webviewer on Windows has the same functionality, but if anyone needs it, I can, of course, take a look. Like recently, I took a look for the all cookie functions. And I actually, in the newer Webviewer 2 on Windows, in the newer Windows versions, I found a function to get the cookies on Windows. So I got this check mark added.
Yes.
But this requires someone to, well, have a need for it.
Yes.
Have to ask me. So I go and look if I can provide the functionality now, because I couldn't do it 10 years ago for the old Internet Explorer.
Yes. So if you have a need, so back up, let's talk about this real quick. So if you have a need for something that you're trying to solve a problem with, I know that it's, you don't want to ask, Christian's been on the show, you don't want to embarrass yourself, ask him about something that he's probably mentioned on the show, but it's his product. He knows it better than anyone. Shoot him an email to support at monkeybreadsoftware.com, and he will reply back and tell him what you're trying to do. Also be specific about the platform. If a lot of times it's already in there, he says, oh yeah, it's in this version and the sample file is called this, and then you know enough to go hunt it down. But he might be like, oh, well, that works on Mac, it doesn't work on Windows, let me go check it. He might be able to add it, right? And then it goes in the new version, right? Because we're currently at 13.1, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and 13.2 is coming soon in April. So let's see, what else do we have? Oh yeah, like the print to file. And also this print to file function. Some people use it to, well, load a web viewer with an HTML page. They create it in FileMaker and then ask the web viewer to print itself to a PDF, so they have a PDF version. Like you could make invoices like this. You just need to prepare the template as HTML and have it be rendered by a web viewer. And I added the Windows support in the last version.
Ah, see, yeah, I really like it when you have support both, because I really hate it when there's only one platform supported. Ken's from Hot Air Balloon Ken says, yeah, he's on the way to 8,000 functions. Pretty good stuff.
We just hit 7,000 this year.
Yeah, well, you've been slacking it lately. You haven't been trying very hard. We expect better from you, Christian. Gotta run. Stu says good stuff. Appreciate the top of the hour. Yeah, we're top of the hour here, everyone. So once again, if you have any other ones you want to cover here, Christian, real quick.
I just want to point out that even for Windows, we have some preferences you can set. Like you can tell a web viewer to don't do any JavaScript. You can decide whether things like a status bar is showing or DevTools. Whether the user is allowed to zoom, and whether the password windows, for example, should show up as auto-enter passwords.
That's interesting.
So those are settings for Windows. We also have settings for Mac, like here, where you can decide a few things. Like, for example, you can change a few of the security policies to disable them, to enable you to better script a website loaded there. And you can enable media use, so you can allow your website to use camera, microphone, or screen access on the web viewer on a Mac. There are specific things. So you could even have a web viewer on a FileMaker Pro load a little Zoom session or so. You could do live streaming from FileMaker.
Wow.
Technically possible. So.
Yeah, no, that's interesting. Well, this is a lot to absorb. So that's a preference setting that you can apply to a web viewer. That's very cool stuff. So very nice. I think that's about it. Real quick, I'm gonna share my screen real quick. So we appreciate Christian coming here. If we take a look at the fmtraining.website, the upcoming broadcast schedule, if I press over here, we got 3 more days of Nick, and then we got Jake Shealy on Friday, we think, but we have to confirm that with him. But I think he's set up to do some interesting stuff. So Jake, it's kind of a kind of an interesting guy. He works kind of part-time for us doing stuff, and then does some of his own stuff. So he's come up with something he wants to show people. The Nick Hunter next week will be part of the modernization workshop. I think he's still working on hot air balloon Ken's file, right? So tomorrow's day 4, 5, and 6, and 7, 8, 9. Then I think Nick is going to take a short break because we'll be doing some stuff. And then we're headed towards probably the next theoretical release. Claris is due for their next agile release of their product line. I don't entirely know what's in there, simply because I haven't read all the crap they've sent me, but I need to do that, so I'm prepared for that. And that's, you know, what they were doing updates about once a quarter, right? So about every 3 or 4 months, Claris does an update to their product line. And so we've been on 19.6 for a while, so probably the next increment after 19.6, whatever that is. That's it for me. Christian Schmidt, good job. Good job, right? Yes?
Thank you.
And then for those of you who wants a reminder, Monkeybread Software, we go there, monkeybreadsoftware.com. You want to send him an email, support@monkeybreadsoftware. Make sure you have the product, because he'll be happy to answer questions and help you out a little bit, right, with your problems, and to direct you where to go. So good stuff. All right,
making sure developers don't say no to their clients.
Yeah, saying yes with Christian Schmidt should be the title of your, saying yes to FileMaker, a whole subset of webinars. All right, cool. Thanks, Christian.
Goodbye.
Got a report of an individual up here who may be a FileMaker license. Well, it's potentially expired. Look at the back of that car right there. Looks like the FileMaker license has expired. Sir, I need you to step out of the vehicle. Sir, step out of the vehicle. Sir.